All right, everyone, welcome to Boulder Insights February Tableau Live session. This is where you come with your real questions, and we'll come with real-time answers as best as we can to help support our Tableau community and our clients and customers that have come to get to know us over the time. So please invite anybody you'd like. We welcome the more the merrier to these sessions. And I am your host, Heather Datillo. I'm the EVP of Operations here at Boulder Insight. I've been a certified trainer and consultant here as well with Tableau. I've been doing this thing for about 9 years now. In February, I had my anniversary. And joining me is my esteemed colleague, our fearless leader, our founder visionary, and we like to call him our GGTK, a good guy to know. Chris Cox is also joining me today as well. So the way Tableau Live works, for those of you who have not joined us before for Tableau Live, we welcome you. We're so glad that you can be here. I know we get to know new folks every time we go do trainings, new clients, new speaking engagements and webinars that we do, that lots of people will find us through our social media and things. So this might be your first time. And so what happens is we answer any submitted questions and topics that have come in through the registration form. We also have a questions form that can be utilized in between sessions that we then bring up and answer those questions. And then we also have an open Q&A forum for anybody that's joined the call but perhaps didn't submit a question in advance. That's totally fine. You may actually have a question that pops up as we're answering some of the submitted ones, and you want to ask that, just simply put that right in the chat. And we will be able to answer those questions throughout the call. So welcome, everyone. I hear lots more people joining. So we're so thrilled that you're here with us for our February session. So as you're joining, know once we go through the submitted questions and the open Q&A, we'll do a quick wrap up to talk about ways that we might be able to support you in between our Tableau sessions. So again, this is our February session. We host these every month, usually on the third Wednesday of the month at the same time at 1 p.m. Mountain, where I'm located, 3 p.m. Eastern, where Chris is located, or whatever time zone you're in as well. So let me just jump on in with our submitted questions. And again, if you are joining us and you didn't submit a question and one comes up to you, we always give priority to those who are here with us live to answer your questions. So just put them right in the chat and we'll be able to answer those as well throughout the Tableau Live session. So you'll notice that there is a poll that's been put into the chat as well. One is, where are you currently located? And as a bonus, if that city or town were a dog, what kind would it be? We've been playing that game today in our internal Slack channels as well. So you're welcome to take part in those polls as well. Jordan, you might need to put the poll in again for people who are just joining. If not, no worries with that as well. So we're going to start with our first question. It came from Melissa V, and she had questions around dashboard design, best practices, how to use background graphics, and data connection refreshes via the Tableau server. So Chris, I'm going to go ahead and take these questions, but as always, feel free to chime in if you have ideas or thoughts around how you would answer these questions too. So, but I'll go ahead and jump into this one, Melissa. So let me go ahead and hit escape here. Oops. And I have some documentation and some things pulled up that I think could be helpful for us to go over. So when we're talking about, let me bring this into the chat, just some of the best practices around dashboard design. This is a question that comes up often with us. And so this document is something we will be able to send to you after the call as well. But when we're talking about some common mistakes and things around dashboard best practices, these are some of the pitfalls that we see that happen. You forgetting your audience and the purpose. That's one thing you want to be really clear. And at the center of all your development, you want to know who is that audience and why are you building this dashboard? What's the key questions or question that you're trying to answer with this? And making sure that you really understand who that audience is, the questions that they're trying to answer, and the data that's going to get you there. The other common mistake we'll often see is people will start to build Tableau dashboards as if this filter frenzy and staying stuck in the Excel mindset bullet, those go together. Oftentimes people will build it as if it's still an Excel spreadsheet, but with lots and lots of filters. And so Tableau is a data visualization tool. So when we're talking about data visualization, we want it to be visual. And so a crosstab or text table, as they're often called in Tableau when we're building them, all that it is another Excel spreadsheet. And so it will allow you more control to filter it, but it's not going to make it as clear and visual as you might hope that it would be. So be careful about having too many filters. We're a big fan of dashboard actions, and I know we have a question around performance. So we'll talk about the difference between a filter and a dashboard action. Filters are one of the things that deeply impact performance often. So make sure you're not doing too many filters and things with that. You want to be careful about your data quality. So don't ignore that. Remember, we have a saying that if it's garbage in, it's going to be garbage out. So taking that time to spend really understanding your data, laying it out in a way that Tableau will be able to read it, not how an Excel spreadsheet would be read by a human. We want it to be columnar, you want it to be relational, and you want your dimensions and measures laid out in such a way that that would work best. You also want to be careful not to forget the best practices when you're doing a visualization. So be careful about making sure that you're not creating confusing charts, that you're thinking again about that audience at the center and who that audience is. You want to think about the types of charts you build for them. So we do have in our trainings, we'll talk about which chart to use when. So if you're looking at your audience and it's somebody that may not be very data savvy yet, that they're just new to this data visualization thing. If you want to look at a distribution of data, you have a couple options of the best chart types for seeing distributions of data. One is looking at like that normal bell curve. We call that a histogram. That's probably going to be what you want to use for those types of data users. If they're more advanced, particularly in the higher ed, manufacturing, things like that, we often will see a box and whisker plot to show distributions as well. So knowing who your end users are is super helpful to be able to decide which chart type to use for them and to use some best practices. And when we get into the next step, about which background image to use and how to use background images, we'll show you how we leverage UI, UX, user interface, user experience best practices, and human-centered design best practices in order to create what we call Tableau templates or Tableau skins, Tableau accelerators. And so I'll be pulling up a skin today and showing you how to use that. The other thing that we can often see where there's some pitfalls that are made is that people will create the dashboard and then they don't update the data very often. And that's one of the questions that has come in today too, is around data extracts and refreshing that on server. So I'll show that too. And then the other big thing is information overload. So you want to be really careful not to create what we call cognitive load. And so this little screenshot will show you some of the best ways to reduce cognitive load. One of them is to get rid of everything that's non-essential. You want to limit the number of items that need to be held, and STM stands for short-term memory. You want to use consistent design patterns and user experiences like left navigation and KPIs that are at the top, other information icons and things in the top right-hand corner. We want to limit visual and redundant encoding. So you're only labeling things once. If you have a label on your bar charts, then you don't have to have them on your axes. And so you can actually hide axes because you don't want people to be overwhelmed with all of the things that are happening in the dashboard. Any way that you can chunk information into groups by type, by color, thinking through, different categories versus subcategories, that can be really helpful as well. We also talk about the 8-second rule. If you can't determine what the dashboard is about within 8 seconds, you may not be building this correctly. So you want to really think about how quickly people can come to the dashboard and understand that key question that they're answering. So one technique you can do is make your title a question. What are our top selling products? Where are our customers located? Things like that you could make the title actually a question so people know what their job is when they get to to the dashboard. Another one is if you are using legends and labels, to place them near the items or in the actual title, and to use intuitive shapes and colors as well. So let me pause. That's a lot. So just making sure that we're talking about some common mistakes and pitfalls for dashboard design best practices and how you can reduce cognitive load. So let me make sure that is making sense to everybody. Any questions from y'all? Come off mute. We want this to be interactive. Feel free to do that, or put it into the chat if you'd like as well. Anyway, would be great. Okay, let me go back to the question that we were answering. Let me pull that up. So that's some of the dashboard design pieces. Let's go ahead and talk about using background graphics next. So I have a dashboard that I've pulled up here. And so if you want to use background graphics, one of the things I will also pull up here is our website. If you go to the boulderinsight.com website, you'll notice this is the Boulder Insight website. We also have Tableau templates and Vizbot, 3 different websites you can go to with products that we have. So if we go to our Tableau templates, you're going to notice we have a few things here. We have accelerators, we have templates, and we have skins. So today I'm going to use a skin. An accelerator is going to have a background image and a data set that's connected to it. What we are starting to do is go to the Tableau accelerators that Tableau themselves have created. We're looking at them and saying, these are really great accelerators. Let us take it to the next level with layering in UI, UX, best practices, human-centered design principles that we've talked about. And so we're making over Tableau's accelerators. So we'll be having more and more of these coming. These are free for you to download and use and explore with them. Next, if you have a Tableau template, what a Tableau template does is have the background image. It has 20 dashboard layouts, but it also has containers that are there. So tiled containers that you can drag and drop your worksheets into them, and they're perfectly aligned in there for you. So that's kind of for the intermediate user. Accelerators are often for the beginner users. And then skins are where we have just background images. So this question asked about how to use background images. So I'm going to go ahead and use our Bright Night skin images. And so you can come in here and purchase these yourselves as well. You can get just one for $1.99. If you want to get all 80 of the variants that you have here, you can go ahead and get those for $44.99 as well. And it'll give you several different layouts and background images. So I'm going to go ahead and use a background image in this. So if you are creating a dashboard and you want to use a background image, what you're going to do is open up a dashboard. And then what you're going to do, our skins are sized to actually work in 2 ways. One is to go to the sizing, and it would work best for generic desktop or PowerPoint. We tend to do it in PowerPoint. The only time we use generic desktop is when we're going to be embedding it into a website. So we'd go to PowerPoint, we resize that. That's the first step that you're going to do. Then from here, what you want to do is change this to floating. And you're going to drag an image into the view here. Once you do that, you're going to choose an image. So I went ahead and downloaded this onto my desktop to have some of the Bright Night skins that are in here. And I'm going to go ahead and just pick number 4. Once you have that, you can go ahead and click OK. So I'm choosing the image, navigating to it. You can download our images, our skins, or purchase one or 80, however many you want with that. Once that's in there, then I go to this part of the layout. So here I'm in a dashboard. This is a dashboard pane. I want to go to the layout pane. And what you do is you size this properly. So for the X and Y images, you're going to make X and Y here, axes, I should say. I'm going to make them 0 and 0. And I know from the sizing of using a PowerPoint, if I go back to the dashboard, this is 1600 by 900. If I was doing generic desktop, I would actually do the 1366 by 768. But here I am. I'm going to make this width 1600 and the height 900, and then hit enter. Once I do that, that then puts the background image that's there, and then I can start to drag and drop any worksheet that I've created. So let's say that I'm connected to Superstore sales, and I may want to look at our products. So maybe I want to look at our category and go down to subcategory and look at this by our sales. And so maybe I just want to look at subcategories. And let's say I go ahead and sort this by the ones that sell the most, and I want to color it by profit. So let's go ahead and say that I've done this. Um, and I'm also going to be dragging this then into my dashboard. So let's say that we want this chart. If I go into my dashboards, this is my sheet 4. I can bring this in here. Now, when I bring it in, you're going to notice there's some things happening. We have a legend. I don't need that. You also notice that we have a white background image that's here. So this is also a floating object that we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the title, and you'll see this white background image. So what we want to do is make sure when we're working on this worksheet, we go into the format and we get rid of the shading and things that are in here. So we want to make sure there's none for the shading. And then we can put that back into our dashboard. We can also go in and start to format our fonts and make sure that our font is actually white. And so that will pop. We can also get rid of things when we're in format. We may say, hey, I don't want all of the lines that are showing up here. So we can go in and get rid of any of our rows and column lines that we're working with as well and continue to clean this up. So you just start to remove grid lines, things like that to make this even better. So let me go ahead and put none. Columns. And then you just start dragging and dropping things into the view. So do the same here. It should be in good shape, but I'm just going to, just to be safe, get rid of all the things. So the nice thing is once I do all this formatting, you have this option where you can right click and copy formatting for any other charts that you would build. So once I do that, you'll start to see this is a much cleaner view, and you can start to just drag and drop your worksheets into each of these areas. So that is covering how to bring in background images. So any questions on background images so far? All right, great. And if I go back to the question at hand, let me bring this back into my screen. The only other question around that, sorry, I don't know why it is not dragging over for me here. Hang on. And if we get into the next question, data connections and refreshes via Tableau server. So Melissa, I don't believe is live with us. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this last question, and then we'll move into the next one. So if we're talking about data extracts, in order to do this, I'm just going to open up a sheet, and you'll notice here's the sample Superstore data. Right now, you'll notice it only has one icon that's here. When you have that one icon, this means it's a live data connection. So if we're talking about refreshing extracts, what you want to do is first do an extract of the data. So I will right click here and go to extract data. When I do that, I typically will go through, aggregate the data for the visual dimensions, leave it to all rows, and extract the data. So we'll go ahead and do an extract of that data. There's other ways that we can talk about extracts and things if people are interested in all in that. We can go deeper into extracts as well. Now you'll notice I no longer have one single icon of the server. It now is saying I'm pulling information from the server. I've extracted that and I have it there. Once you have this, what you can do is actually run refreshes of your data source. You can also run refreshes of your Tableau workbook. And so to do that, what I can do is even right click here again, and I can say publish to server. When I do that, you'll notice I'll get some dialog boxes that will come up. This is the sample superstore data. And you'll notice here, this is where you'll see a refresh schedule. So what you can do is you can choose how often you wanted to refresh. Now, sometimes this is locked down to you depending on your permissions. You may have to work with your server admin because what we don't want is for everybody to be refreshing at the same time. So sometimes this is locked down based on your server admin, but we could say, I want this to refresh, let's say every day at 6 a.m. So I can click that and then I can publish this. And if my data is refreshing on a regular basis, this will allow that to happen. And then I could publish that to my data source. You do have to be signed into your server and you have to make sure you're in the right site that you want it in. Right now, I'm signed in to my server, and you'll notice I'm in the Tableau, our BIG training part of our server. So that's where that would go published to. So let me pause. That should answer all of those questions that had come in there. And just make sure there's none that we're missing with that. All right, now remember, you are here live. If you have a question that's not represented today, you are welcome to bring up those questions as well to us live. Come off mute, put it in the chat wherever you'd like. So, all right, let me ask a question of you all. It's not a poll, just a question in the chat. Is there anything else around dashboard design, using background graphics, or data connection refreshes via Tableau server? Any questions that you all have from that? And give me a 1 if you learned something new, or a thumbs up, or a 2 if you knew all this already and you're experts and we should be taking you off mute and asking you some things.
Hi, Heather. I have a question about the extracts.
Yes, absolutely.
So basically, I was trying to do extracts and my data. Basically, when I update it into Excel, I have to first go and update it into the Tableau desktop, after which I republish the sheet and override the sheet onto the server. And I don't know, for some reason, it does not automatically go live or, do the extracts from the server. So what should be done for that?
That's a great question. Chris, do you want to field that question?
Sure. Are you saying that your Tableau server doesn't do the refresh? It actually fails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with your Tableau server, are you using cloud, or are you using one that's on a premise?
Sorry, what was that? I missed the last part.
Is your server on Tableau Cloud or Tableau? Is it an on-prem solution that you're using for Tableau server?
On-prem, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, typically what I would try to do is, if it's not refreshing from the server, you should be getting some sort of error message that would show you. Here, let me actually share my screen. I'll show you where you look at
Absolutely, Chris.
And depending, let me get to our server real quick. So, all right, let me share my screen. So you would get, here we go. I'll just go wherever, it doesn't matter. So if you can get to this server status screen, I'm not sure if you can or not. If you don't have access to it, you have to talk to your whole site admin. But what you need to look at is a background task for extracts right here, and what this is going to tell you, this is going to show you everything that has run. And so on all these, let me just pick one, doesn't matter, but it'll zoom things in my way. But I should be able to hover over this. It should give me something. So this here will give you some sort of error message if it fails. I don't have any that's actually failed, so I don't have any error message. But at the bottom of this, you see that, and you can probably go into here and get it too. But this will be what it says. So that will be your error message.
All right, makes sense. Thank you so much.
Great question. Thanks for coming off mute. We always appreciate having, this is Tableau Live, so we love having live questions with folks as well as those that have been submitted. So I'm also seeing a question, will we also be able to do the auto refresh if we publish to Tableau Public? No. So that's a great question. I believe that's from Marami. No, Tableau Public, the great thing about Tableau Public is that it's a free version of a Tableau server essentially for you all. So what's great about that is that you can, without having to purchase a server, you can, if it's things that are not confidential, we would never recommend this for any PII, PHI, any student data, any data that needs to remain confidential around your clients. But if this is something that's forward facing, a lot of our clients are nonprofits and they have forward facing data that they need to share and dashboards they want to share with folks. So what I can do, I'll actually pull up one of our, let me open up a new window here. One of our clients that uses Tableau Public. So this is done through Tableau Public. I'll go into the results. This is the Colorado Health Foundation, and we've been working with them. We're now going to do our 5th year with them that we're starting, where we do a survey every year, and then we publish the results to the survey. You'll notice that this can be viewed on Tableau Public, and it's only what is actually published to Tableau Public. So if you would have new data, you'd have to refresh your data in Tableau Desktop and then republish to Tableau Public to be able to do that. But that's a really great question. So if I pull this up on Tableau Public, you'll notice here is the dashboard in Tableau Public. And what you do is you get an embed code from here. So when you're able to do this, you go to share, there's an embed code that you can have that you then put into your website through an iframe that you're able to do that. So when we start to go in and let's say we want to look at affordable housing in Colorado from 2023 and what are the concerns around that, this pulls that information up and would be there, but the data would not refresh unless I manually went in, refreshed the data in our Tableau desktop version, save that, republish to Tableau Public in order to be able to do that. Great question.
Thank you. Quick follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Would we have access to a server if we have a license, or are those two very different things?
They're two different things. So you have access to Tableau Desktop as a creator, and also you can have Tableau Prep. You'll get access to that, but to share and publish things, you have to have a server instance. So you can do Tableau Online, Tableau Cloud now it's called. We at Boulder Insight, we actually started our company 15 years ago by purchasing our own Tableau on-prem server and then leasing sites to folks like nonprofits who can't afford their own on-prem server as well. So those are your other options as well too, to be able to purchase and do that. And there's different, we can help you find the pricing on that and talk to you about that, Marami, too, what that would look like and the advantages to using either Tableau Cloud, getting a Tableau on-prem server, which is, a larger investment depending on the sizes of your companies, or having a site on our server that we then maintain, do the updates and things for you as well. So, but Tableau server is a separate purchase to be able to share your data with Tableau viewers, Tableau explorers as well, or your Tableau creators. The difference is creators can publish workbooks and data sources. Explorers have to work with the published data sources that are already on your server. Viewers can view what's on the server. These are all in secure ways. Tableau Public is if you want to share it with the public. So that's the differences there.
Yeah, one more thing, Heather. There is
Chris.
I don't remember how to do it, but there is a so on Tableau Public, the only data source I believe that will do automatic refreshes is a Google Sheets. And I forgot how to set it up, but if your data is on Google Sheets, you can do it. Like this is can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
So so I know
out of here. Hang on.
I know you can, because this is one I did for this buddy of mine a while back. So it's up, I don't know, it's some rotary thing. But so here you see that you can do a data refresh, and it actually did it already. So with Google Sheets, there is something you can set up. I'm not sure where it is. I assume it's in settings, but I don't know for sure. Maybe it's
It may
whenever
be when
you
you publish too, Chris. I don't know.
could actually be, but there's something that you can do for that. But I don't think that there's anything more than that one. See, this one's going to have a data refresh, but if I go to a different dashboard that doesn't have Google Sheets, like say this one, I think this is then it's not going to have that at the bottom. Would be my guess. Yeah, so it doesn't have that option. So I think it is, if it has Google Sheets, I think it automatically has some sort of a button down below.
Yeah, see, Marami, I'm so glad that you asked that question because I did not know that till today. So I learned something new every time you guys ask questions. So that's why we really love Tableau Live, because if you have a question, there's probably somebody else out there that has that same question that we could answer. So that is fabulous. So Yana, I'm going to get to your question here in just a bit. Let us go ahead and get through a couple more of the submitted ones, but I see that there. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we'll take a chance to answer that. The next question that we had came through from Beamson, and it was the question was Tableau on Linux. When we're talking about Linux, that is actually our preferred way to have Tableau server on Linux. And Chris, you're welcome to chime in if I miss anything here as well. But we prefer that. We have a product called Tableau Server, and we prefer when we're working with folks on server that we move you to a Linux environment. It's faster and it's cheaper. It's our preferred method. It allows us to run scripts when we're doing updates, when we're looking at upgrades, things like that. So you can script things for it. All of the upgrades can all be done that way. It's usually our preferred method. And it just allows you to have more control. Now, that said, with Linux, it does require someone that is a developer and has some background to understand putting in the code and commands to be able to do that. The other option is for people to run on Windows, and Windows is more of a GUI that works from that interface to be able to, that's more a little bit more has a little bit more user interface in it that's easier to use that way, but you can't run scripts. It's not as powerful as you can. It doesn't have the control that you can with Linux. So Beamson, I don't think is with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next submitted question. I don't think I see Kristen, so I'll come back to this. We did maps last time, and Nadia not here, so I will actually come back to this too. I have some information with it, and just seeing if Sky is here as well. So don't see Sky either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to some of the live questions, and then we'll move through the ones that have been submitted as well as we can. But let's go ahead and turn to the live questions. I know Yana had a question, and I believe Jordan Omo had a question as well. Is that correct?
Yes. About
And Omo, if you want to even come off mute, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly, and let us know a little bit more about your question. I'm seeing multiple data tables, but I'm not sure exactly what your question is with that. If you want to come off mute and let us know that.
Okay. Hi. So I have multiple, I guess I do have multiple tables in my data set, but I'm trying to restrict the user access. Like if this person is in this department, then they should only see data for their department. But I've been trying to use, I mean, there's several videos and articles I've read online, but I haven't found anything that tells me that works for my data in terms of just doing that restriction instead of just using the user filter and restricting it one by one, because I have 300 users and it could increase over time. So
Got you.
yeah, I just don't know what is the ideal, I guess, the ideal way to do that in a way that is dynamic and not as manual as adding each user.
That's a great question. Oh, thank you for coming off mute. So for RLS, you were talking about row level security then,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
that you've been trying that. Yeah. Hey, Chris, do you want to chime in and share what your thoughts
Yeah.
are? I have a couple
Yeah,
of my own
didn't
too.
get the whole, I didn't get the whole question. Can we say it for me?
It's really about row level security and how to limit access to only the information that people need to have. What are some of the best practices around that? And Clark is on the call as well. We've been doing that with one of our clients to limit state information and things. So maybe between you and Clark, you might have
Yeah, I mean,
some thoughts on that.
typically you would just have in your data source somewhere that would
Yeah.
tell you that this user would have access to something, right? So you'd have some sort of a table that would say the username and then what level they had access to. So like for example, if it's a certain region, so you can do that. You can do that in Tableau just by writing a calculated field that would just say just say like username is equal to the username. Clark, I don't know if you have that open. You can maybe show that calculation, or maybe you can just write it real quick. I can. I think I have it. I can do one really quick and show you that.
Yeah, I don't have it open right now. I'm happy to
All right,
pull it up if you want me to, but
here it's like I'm opening up a new dashboard. So
okay.
typically, if you have a data set like that have a username in it, that's the easiest like thing ever opens. I could show you, but you're just watching my Zoom screen right now. Tableau hops
Actually,
in my.
we're seeing your Slack, I think, Chris, or your inbox.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna wait till this thing opens up and I'll get to it. Or Heather, if you want to show your screen, if you've already have a desktop open.
Yeah, I do have desktop
do that.
open. Let me go ahead and share mine and I will grab
Yeah, there you go.
the one I've been working
Okay.
from. Yeah, what would you like me to do here?
Here, I'll just ask for control.
Oh, there you go.
So what you typically could do is like, say if in your if like in your field here you had in your database you have like a username column, right? And so that column is going to actually limit your rows. So then what I would write some calculation that would say, user filter, whatever, and you do like username that would be so this one here is going to come up with like this. So this is going to be how they actually logged in. So right now this is actually Heather, so she's actually logged in. So if I wanted to test what I could see, then you would change it to me, right? So so this is going to return back that. So you would just say username equals your actually field in your database, that you would have, which we don't have in this the data set. Well, let's just say that you had it. Let's just say if it was this, right? So then if I have this in here and I put that on my filter shelf and I just say I want it to be true always. So now if I change it to Heather, it's not gonna work. It's gonna be coming issue false. It's gotta go there. So I just selected true. So let me go back and just change it back to her. Since I hard coded that. So the answer right now is actually false. So false is not checked. You want it to be true. So now if I just do this for all of my sheets, I would make this global. Then now any sheet I have will only give me the rows that like tied to that one user. That makes sense?
And
Yeah, that makes sense.
Set it up as groups too by departments. So it means that you would have a data set for users. Essentially, Chris, is what I'm hearing from you, correct? So it could be by different departments. It could be managers and the people that report to them. That you essentially create a data source that allows you to set those filters and apply them across the dashboards. Then that way.
That's it.
Okay,
Chris,
so
what
follow-up
about
question. Sorry, just one more. So
Yeah, of course.
in the like from the file that I'm pulling the group from, so when I do this, because I think I did something similar, but it didn't work. But when I do this, is it going to also read like this is the user, so it's gonna do the department automatically? because I do have the file with all the users, their username, their login, and the department they belong to. So just by using username equals to whatever the username is, it would just filter out by department, or do I have to write a longer code?
I don't think so, because that's how we do it for the other one too. You would just say username equals like username, but then that would give you just that a department, right? So that's going to limit by that row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Should we also
it should
show
work.
permissions on server at all and talk through that a bit for this?
Okay.
Well, that's not going to be for the row entry level.
Okay.
That's kind of a different thing. But did you also ask something about that you have to update them manually? Did you ask that question too, or did I didn't I
Oh no, I didn't
hear
ask.
that last part? Oh, okay, I must have dreamed that part. Never mind.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Omo. And if you start
Hmm.
running into trouble, I'll show you at the end how you can connect with us for some sessions that we can help you online, virtually, just looking at it at the use
Okay.
case as you're going through it. Here is an article. I'm sure you've seen this one, but for others who may not have, I'm going to go ahead and put in a link to just row level security using user filters. That's a Tableau knowledge-based article that might be helpful as well. All right, looking at the time we have, I think I am going to jump into Yana's question, and then I will come back through the other questions that I can, but I want to answer the people's questions that are here with us live today. Good news is we can keep these questions for our next Tableau Live session too, and try to get to them as well. So Yana has a specific question, Chris, that you and I can chime in on about this. And it's what would be the best way to visualize, and here, let me actually bring this over and I'll share my screen again if I'm not already. I am. What would be the best way to visualize differences in magnitude, a measure X for dimension Y, where members of the dimension Y vary in size significantly? Specifically, she wants to show percentage of economically disadvantaged students in 5 neighboring school systems. So she chose a horizontal bar chart. Those school systems vary in size, number of students enrolled, to the tiniest school system of 1,000 students. It happens to have 70% of economically disadvantaged kids, and the largest one, 50,000 students, has 50% of disadvantaged kids. But in her bar chart, the magnitude's not reflected. What chart type would best reflect those school system size differences? So I have a couple ideas for this, but Chris, I want to give you a chance to chime in first if you have any thoughts on the best way to show this.
No, I don't really have a thought right now. Why don't you go ahead and start, and I'll try to chime in if I can think of
Okay,
something
great.
different.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking, let me move this out of the way. And I'll come back into this one. So there's a couple chart types. One option, Yana, that you could do is you could actually have a bar chart, as we talked about earlier, and you said that you're using. I thought I had a bar chart here. Let me just build. Oh, it's being filtered by user, so that's why we're not seeing it. So what you could do in here is you could actually go into your axis and edit the axis. And make this an independent axis with it. No, I guess that wouldn't necessary. That was my first thought, and trying to make this an independent axis, but that would be if you had multiple things you were showing. So for this use case, I think you may want to think about something like either looking at a packed bubble chart or looking at a tree map. I think these can often show things a little bit better for you. And so in order to do a tree map, you would have, and maybe we don't want both profit and sales in here with it. Whoops, let me get that back. I'm going to remove sales from color here, and I'm going to take profit onto color. So let's say that we're looking at the counts and things with it. What this would do is it would allow you to start to see the schools that have the largest. So this is best for showing the use case that you're talking about is really showing the breakdowns of the whole, kind of the largest economically disadvantaged districts that you have. So what you can do is you can then say this is your districts. You can do something by clicking here, and this is called again, this is called a tree map. And a tree map, if you hover over tree maps in this, you need to have one or more dimension and one or two measures to be able to do a tree map. Everything happens on the marks card for this. So there's nothing on columns and rows. So you have a dimension on label and then a measure on size. And then you can also add color if you'd like for that. And so when we look at this, and maybe profit isn't the best thing, maybe I want to do quantity here for both of these and do quantity for color, that we might want to look at it that way. What you can do with the dimension is go to the dimension and you can show a highlighter. So when you do that, then you could start to look at the specific school districts and it will highlight where those land. So it's not about the size of the district, it's more about the percentage of economic disadvantaged kids. So if you're looking, if your measure that you're using is the actual percentage of disadvantaged kids, then that will be what you would put as your measure that's on there. You could put quantity, let's say, that the other item is our sales. You could put that on tooltip, and then you could see the size of that. But yeah, so that's one way when I'm thinking of breakdowns of the whole that I often will look at tree maps. I find them a little easier to understand and navigate than a packed bubble chart. So that's where I'm landing. You could also take the percentage on color as well, that you may want to, layer some of the things into your bar chart with some tooltips and leverage some of the tooltips. The other option too that we had pulled up around mapping is you can do a viz within your charts as well to show a different view as well. So sometimes a viz within a viz is a nice example and way to handle that as well. Any other thoughts from anybody on the call? This is Tableau Live. It's us learning together. If there's anybody from the Boulder Insight team that's on the call that you have a different thought, I welcome it. There's, we are painting with numbers. So this is an art as well as a science. And so there's lots of different ways to kind of think through which chart type is best. All right, no other thoughts for Ariana? All right, let me go ahead and jump back into questions since I'm talking about maps. This was a question that was submitted by Kristen L around 10 plus layer maps. And so without Kristen being here, I'm not exactly sure what she means by the 10 plus, but what I do want to show you is how you can do layers in maps in Tableau. So we have done what's called a dual axis map. So this is one way to add an additional layer that's there. So you'll notice one of the layers has our profit in the background. If we look in here, you'll notice there's profit. The other layer, if I go in here, has sales, which is our circles that's in there. So that's one way that you can start to add layers into your map. Another way, if I would remove, let's say I don't want to have the layer, oops, let me go the other one here. Sorry, I'm going to remove this one. Let's say we don't want the background image that's there with the maps. You can go to map and you'll notice there's something called map layers that's here. And there's all kinds of additional layers that you can add depending on how zoomed in you are with the data. So if I want to zoom in here, let's say I want to zoom in and let's go to Colorado since that's where I'm located. And let's say now that I'm zoomed in, you'll notice some of these other options show up. So I can start to put in county borders. I can put in county names if I want that's in there. I can put in area code boundaries. So you can start to add in additional layers through Tableau that way. You also have data layers that are built in for US data only based on the US Census data. So let's say that I want to look at the household size average that's here. What's the average size of households? This will color it by the different locations, the different counties in this. If I zoom back out you can start to see how that layer would be across the border with each of these each of the states that are there. So you do have options to continue to layer in other layers as well. But this is what all of your map layers that are automatically built in through Tableau. So you can go as far down as into neighborhoods and even building footprints. Water labels is a newer one that came out in the last few years. You can do metro labels, but again, it won't show up unless you're zoomed in at that level of detail. So they may be checked off, but grayed out if you're not zoomed in at that level of detail to see that information. You can even have streets, highways, things with that as well. All right, so looking at our time, let me jump back into questions again. And I've got my question over in the other screen once again. Let me pull that up. We also had a question from Sky regarding tips and tricks and building meaningful data and how to create visuals that update automatically. So some of those pieces that we've talked about with these questions and things when we're thinking about it. We've talked about some of this today with having a live data connection. So if we want to see things that update automatically, having a live data connection would often do that for you if it's published to server and a way for people to see that. But you have to remember that Tableau is something that we would have to do. You have to touch it and refresh that dashboard often if it's an extract and things and not scheduled. So it depends on how that information would be happening. You can actually, we have some use cases where we are working right now with the elections. We're working with a company out of California that sends out regular updates on different maps and different things that are happening through a dashboard. And so for that person, they actually wanted to be able to show the dashboard through something we have as a tool called Vizbot for people who aren't necessarily part of the Tableau server environment for them, but they actually receive regular updates and emails that they just want a flat file and things. So that is an option that you can have as well, is something that we call Vizbot that we use that if you have a server instance, people could be subscribing to the updates and seeing that. But if you don't have that server instance, we have something called Vizbot. That's a huge time saver. It won't send out interactive dashboards, but this is for those people who aren't quite ready to interact with reporting. It would send out PDFs, PNGs, or CSVs. So we're actually going to be doing a webinar next week for Vizbot. And Jordan, I would love if you get a chance to just put in the information about the webinar and how people can find out more about it. That might be a solution that could be really helpful for folks as well. It's a free webinar to learn about how Vizbot works and how that might take place as well. So. Then the other piece, we weren't sure with Sky about visuals. We weren't sure if they literally meant visuals that were updating on big screen TVs. So that's something that's a little bit more unique. You cannot have Tableau actually visualize those things. So let me go back to our website here. And if I go into Boulder Insight, and you go to our blogs, we have a blog post at the very bottom, actually, on how to display dashboards on a TV screen. And so this is something that often our manufacturing clients really want that's in there. And so this really talks about how you're going to need a browser to be able to do that. The right tool to be able to do it and how you design your dashboard. And so we walk through some of the steps of doing that. And we've actually leveraged Vizbot to be able to have the dashboards update that way. So you cannot do updates that are being put into big screens like that they will update regularly. So this is a little bit more complex and nuanced. And we have an article that kind of walks through that. Chris, I don't know if you want to add anything about the nuances of displaying on a TV screen for anything. You're welcome to add to that.
So the reasons, well, like, so the like you can use a dashboard on a TV screen and just log into it. The problem is that you'll have to put it into a web page that's going to do a refresh. So that user has to always be kind of a logged in. So often, especially if you're running scripts at night, that'll probably kill it. So at some point, your users are going to be logged out. So you'd have to do that every day. The solution we came up with is to use Vizbot to generate images of these dashboards, and then just have those saved in a certain directory. And so then instead of having to log into Tableau server, you just have this image in a location on some web server, and that way you just on your monitor you just run Chrome, and then you just have it go to a certain URL, and then every time it does a refresh, and then puts a new image in that folder, it's going to just do a whole replace. And so then your actual browser will just know it's there, and you'll get a new one. So that's kind of how that works.
We had this this actual image that you're seeing on this. This was one of our clients that wanted the sales team to see regular updates on how they were doing towards goal and things too. So definitely a use case that we see from time to time. So wanted to make sure to do that. So for those of you that didn't join us today and we didn't get to your question, Nadia, we're going to bring your question back next Tableau Live session. So no, we'll answer that then. I just want to let you guys know too, we're super excited that we actually have been talking about doing this for years. And we've actually launched what we call the Boulder Insight Academy now. So oftentimes we'll have our clients come to us and we will do a training for a large team. But we also have found, just like we found it ourselves by creating a server for people who had less than a large team to be able to work from, that we had sites in our server. We also now have the Boulder Insight Academy, and Jordan just put that link into the chat for you all as well, where individuals can actually register to take our classes. So we have a fundamentals class, an intermediate class, and one we call the BIG Way, Boulder Insight Group is where BIG comes from. And these are all custom training courses that we've created based on the skill sets that you need as a new user, an intermediate user, and then how we use it as a consultant. And so we're going to be offering this every quarter. You'll get a fundamentals, intermediate, and BIG Way option to do that. And if you're a student, we actually have a special code to give you 50% off the cost of the classes. So reach out to us. If you're a student, we would just need proof that you are a student where you're at school, and we'd be able to offer those discounts. So that is absolutely an option for you all. Check out that link that Jordan did. We're super excited to be offering that. And again, it's best for people who are individuals at organizations with 5 or less employees, typically that need the training, that this is a great way for us to be able to support you all with it. Then we'd love for you to stay connected with us. Come on back next month. We'll be here. Follow us on socials at Boulder Insight. You'll get to see all of the things. You've joined our mailing list. If you've registered, typically you can always not join and stay joined if you don't want to, but if you've registered, you'll be getting updates on this. And we're just so thrilled that you could attend and join us today, everyone. So thanks for attending Tableau Live. We'll see you next month as well. And I will also put in the link to the questions form should you have questions in between. And if you go to our website, to boulderinsight.com, anywhere on our website, you'll typically see schedule time with me. This is how, if you need more support than just submitting a question, this is where you can set up time with Chris specifically. I can also, mine is, I can put my Calendly link in as well if you ever want that too, but this gets time with us to help with your own data to support you. So have a wonderful day, a wonderful month. We'll see you next month.